So just want to thank everybody. We've got members from all three UCP boards of directors here. This is a good opportunity for folks that have been with UCP a long time and want to dive deeper into some of the data and services and client profiles that we've experienced over the past year, or folks that are maybe new and want to refresh what UCP's core services are and how that impacts our clients. One thing that all of you guys have seen is our mission statement. This is on our front entryway, it's on our website, it's on a lot of our board packets, and it's clear that today UCP is a leading provider of comprehensive services to children and adults with developmental disabilities. This is who we are today, but real quickly, let's take a minute to talk about how we got here. Back in 1955, families formed UCP, and they did that because at that time, the really only option that was presented to families who wanted services for their children with disabilities, often significant disabilities, was to institutionalize their child. This is almost a foreign concept to most of us today, the idea of taking our children, generally well before the age 18, and committing them legally into an institution for life, with state staff to care for them, with other folks with developmental disabilities where you get a visitor pass to come visit them, is just not concurrent with our values. And our families knew that. And so 14 years before the service system existed in California, that community-based service system, families joined together and said, we want another option for our families. If you ever have a time, there's a YouTube video documentary called We're Here to Speak for Justice. It's a little dated, but it documents these same families who formed UCP and actually fought with the state to create the regional center system. So UCP was created to have an alternative option for families and their clients, our clients, their children, who wanted to live together in their homes and in their communities. So UCP is founded to be a community-based option for folks. Today, what that means is that we provide 15 unique programs across 4 divisions here at UCP. So on the P&Ls and some of the other things we'll often talk about individual programs like Respite, Transportation, Saddle Pals. Here at UCP, we divide those in 4 divisions: a Respite division, an Adult Day Program division, a Transportation division, and a Therapy Recreation division. All these programs are community-based, meaning they're non-institutionalized. Clients are gaining better access to their communities, to their natural support, to natural environments through our programs. And they represent the core of what we do, serving almost 6,000 clients. The programs you see here with an asterisk: family respite services, day programs, class, transportation, those are funded by Alta California Regional Center. The ones that aren't are funded either through alternative contracts or private pay. So what I'm going to do in the next 15 minutes is I'm going to walk through a quick snapshot of each of these 4 divisions. And we're going to talk about the kind of services these programs provide and the kind of clients that are served in these programs. One thing you'll note is how different the populations are from division to division, and how different in many ways our operating structure is. So let's start with the adult division. Our adult division is comprised of 2 programs. The first group of programs is 8 facility-based adult day programs. These are facilities operated, leased by UCP. They're operated at a group ratio of anywhere from 20 to 45 clients a day. There's a staffing ratio, and this is really an educational training center for folks with developmental disabilities. It's for them and their peers to work on goals, to access their communities, to further develop independent living skills or personal goals that they have in a group environment. The second program that's attached to the adult division are independent living services. These are folks in a program called CLASP, and that is for adults that are a bit more what we would call high functioning. They are living independently in the community, but they need some support. So it's really a training program to provide one-on-one mentors. One thing you're going to see in every slide when we go to a division is a client count and a service hours. These are what we would call mission metrics. We want to know what's the level of impact. So we're going to count by number of unique individuals served in this division, and then the number of service hours that those clients receive. So this is an hour received by a client. So if 6 clients are in a day program, for 5 hours a day. Collectively, those 6 clients receive 30 service hours. So it's a way to measure not just the number of clients, but the volume of impact clients in this division are receiving. So our adult programs serve 362 clients, about 6% of our total client count. But those 6% of clients are going to receive about 42% or 348,000 service hours. So these clients are generally getting lots of hours every week in services. We're going to watch 2 quick videos, about a minute each, to just show you how these programs work.
They've been helping me get used to being able to talk in front of a lot of people. And we used to have a speak up class that I wrote a big speech. Yeah, I was afraid, but I had to get out there and speak my mind and tell how it was.
The second video is a little fun we got to have in one of our programs.
Are you on a roller coaster, Steve? Oh. Look at, you're about to go down. Whoa. What do you think, David? Hello.
So what you got to see was 2 profiles of what the types of activities and goals we have for our adult division. There's a couple of things that we really want to point out for the folks that are served by this program. The first is, you notice these clients often have fairly significant disabilities and have significant care needs. And so when these programs are really focused on clients that need those services the most. When you look at the demographics for the clients that are coming to these programs, you can see that the first graph shows that 66% of the clients in the adult programs, their primary diagnosis is what we call an intellectual disability. Cerebral palsy comes in at 23%, autism comes in at 6%. I want you to keep that in mind as we move through the slides. You'll see a difference as we move to divisions. So 66% of these folks have an intellectual disability as their primary diagnosis. 53% are non-ambulatory, which generally means that they require total care and significant supports by staff in programs. And 53% of these folks are nonverbal. Doesn't mean they don't communicate. All clients communicate, but it does mean that they have very limited or potentially no ability to communicate in English or another language. We have to engage in other forms of communication with that client. So these are folks with significant care needs. 2 other points for the day programs is there's federal funding changes in March 2019, which will change which types of these programs get funded with federal funds. They're going to have to meet these new federal standards, which will be fairly onerous for day programs. It's not clear for California how we're going to address that for UCP's programs. And as you guys all know, the funding for these types of programs have been hit the hardest over the last decade here in California. That's our adult day program. Let's switch to Respite. Respite is in-home care and supervision for families. So back to those families that were trying to not place their children in developmental services, this was often the first service that they needed. They needed support in the home so that they could keep their families together. So it's seen as an essential service. A very large number of children will get, if they get any services, they will get Respite services. Over the past decade, the Respite division has been our fastest growing program and our largest program by both number of clients served and also gross net revenues for UCP. So whereas day programs had 6% of our total clients represented in our client count, Respite is 35%. And when day programs provided 48% of our total service hours, respite is 35 at 283,000 hours. So a significant amount of hours are provided to families through both UCP's day programs or adult programs and respite. When we said that UCP or respite was one of the fastest growing programs, to put that in perspective, year over year, the number of clients served in UCP's respite program increased 6%, and then the total service hours those families received increased 10%. And this has been fairly consistent historically over the past 5 years or so. When we talk about the respite family profile, let's talk first about the diagnosis. 64% of the folks receiving respite services have a primary diagnosis of autism. If you remember from the previous slide, that's a significant change. Only, I believe, 6% of our day program clients have a primary diagnosis with autism, and intellectual disability in day programs is the primary. Here, intellectual disabilities come in second at 18%. Cerebral palsy is only 6%. So respite serves a significant amount of folks with autism compared to other disabilities. And that's represented because more folks in the developmental system have a primary diagnosis of autism now. Client age, 81% of the total folks we serve in respite are children. A lot of folks think we only serve children. That's not true. We'll serve any child living at home regardless of their age. So if an adult child is living in a family home, they're generally eligible for respite as well. A couple of facts about respite is the average family is authorized for about 67 hours a quarter, so in a 3-month period. The maximum is generally 120 unless there's a special exception. 36% of families in our respite program use 0 hours, and that means they don't use 1 hour in a 3-quarter period. What's difficult with respite is the state often will give families respite even if they don't want it as sort of a core service. So we have to have a lot of families we're just not sure if they need respite, if they want respite, if they elect not to use respite, and there's a lot of follow-up trying to get those folks in. But once families start using, 32% of respite families use almost all of their hours. So it's basically a third really aren't interested in respite or aren't engaging with respite. A third are using a small fraction of their hours, certainly less than 75%. And about 30%, 32% of our clients are using almost all their hours. So once families get connected into respite, it seems to be an essential service for them. There's always more respite than we have workers, more availability. So hiring is key for all of our departments, especially respite. The success of respite always depends on matches. So getting a right match with a worker in a family really is a primary factor in determining success. And we have a diversity of families, so we need a diversity of workers. There's no one type of worker or right type of respite worker because there's no right type of family. So we're really becoming part of a family structure, which impacts how we need to approach an in-home respite program. The third division is transportation. We really run 2 types of transportation for 99% of our services. Transportation, which is large buses, like what you see in the photo on fixed routes, taking clients to and from program every day, generally 5 days a week. And then our shuttle program, which is on-demand service, so we may just be taking one person to a doctor's appointment and maybe back. And so there's a large amount of clients served by shuttle because these are short trips. So we serve in total for transportation about 3,300 clients, most of those being shuttle. So half of our service count, or 49%, is from shuttle clients. They represent about 4% of our service hours because they're getting very short trips on a one-time basis. Our fixed route transportation vehicles taking the same clients to programs every day, they represent about 9% of our clients served in transportation, but about 18% of our service hours because they're on the bus for generally in excess of an hour a day. Here's some examples of what the vehicles look like. On the top, you see our larger buses that can fit 16 ambulatory passengers or 6 non-ambulatories. Basically, if it's legal to transport, we can carry it. Those are actually photos of us helping with the evacuation of Sonoma Developmental Center during the Santa Rosa fires. The vehicle down below is what a shuttle vehicle looks like. It's a Class C vehicle, and generally we could take 1 to 2, very rarely 3 passengers, but that's for the demand response service. Transportation is all about taking people where they need to go. So on any given day, we're running about 30 of the fixed routes and 16 of the demand response routes each day. On our fixed route, about 29% of those passengers are non-ambulatory. So they're really designed for folks with significant needs. When you look at transportation and we think about how well we're doing our job, what kind of impact we're making, we generally look at passengers, miles, and trips. So again, shuttle has the majority of the passengers compared to transportation. We just talked about that. We look at miles driven. Transportation is driving a little over a million miles, with a total of a little over 1.5 for both shuttle and trans. And one-way trips provided by both trans and shuttle. We're doing about 180,000 one-way trips between the two departments. So a significant amount of transportation happening every day here at UCP. The last of the four divisions is what we call therapy and recreation. ACE would have fallen in this. We've removed it because it's not an active program right now, but they are part of our stats for the previous year. But we also provide camp, and we have a saddle pals program. And we keep looking at opportunities to potentially expand the impact. We like to say, and by the way, it's not 0%, just because the way the calculations work, it's 1%, but it comes out as 0 when you round it down. One thing we like to say is that all of the dollars we spend in services mean a lot, but there is something about the therapy and recreation, for fairly small amount of dollars compared to, say, a day program or transportation, we can provide a meaningful experience that'll stick with somebody for a lifetime. We're going to show a quick 1-minute video about camp. I want to say a big thank you to Steve for those short videos. Having something in less than a minute that captures what we do really does help us. So in addition to camp, many of you are aware of Saddle Pals. We continue to provide therapeutic horseback riding for children and adults in that program as well out in Grass Valley. So now that we've done an overview of each of the four divisions, what I want to do is I want to put it all together and show you what that looks like. Because often we'll talk about total client served or total service hours or our demographics together. So when you take all of our programs together and you look at who's served by UCP, here's what you see. This last year, UCP served about 5,800 clients between our four divisions, with 38.5% of those clients being respite, a little over 60 or under 60% of those being in transportation, either shuttle or UCP's transportation. Day programs represented about 6% of our clients. The colors match. So if you look at this chart on the right, again, you can see how we build into service hours, how much day programs, respite, transportation, shuttle, and ACE represent for our total service hours, which accumulate about 820,000 service hours received by families and clients. When you look at our total demographics, adding all of our clients together, not including shuttle, because we don't capture that data, because it's a one-way trip, we may not meet that person and know their history or their diagnosis. When you add it all together here at UCP, 49% in 2018-19 of our clients had a primary diagnosis of autism. Second was intellectual disabilities at 28%. Cerebral palsy came in at 10%, and 1% is epilepsy. There's a fifth category, which means that folks can have other diagnoses as well, and so that's come in at 12%. 67% of the folks we serve in our programs are male. And a lot of folks are surprised about this. The reason is that autism skews male. So since the majority of our folks have autism and the majority of those are male, our overall demographic skews male as well. Client aid, we have obviously both adult and programs for families and children. 53% of the folks that we serve are under age 18, so about half. UCP doesn't sell iPads. We don't produce a product. Our product is staff. All services are staff-based. So that's really the product we provide for our families and our clients. So in 2018-19, we ended the year with 907 staff employed. You can see how that represents from those same colors for each division, majority being respite. Those staff worked approximately 586,000 hours. And again, you can see how it's split up by the division. And because respite staff are all part-time, as well as some other part-time positions, the majority of UCP's workforce is part-time, or 79% is part-time, with 21% being full-time. And this is just our program staff. It doesn't include administrative staff. This is our last slide. As board members, you're responsible for approving and overseeing our financial statements, so you're often aware of the financial performance of the programs. What you see here is a graph showing each of our programs, and they're by the same colors representing their divisions, so day programs, respite, transportation, therapy, and rec. And what you see is the gross revenue that the programs generate. So this does not include miscellaneous revenue or fund development revenue. These are revenue generated by the programs. Day programs earned approximately $4.3 million, respite 8.5. Our transportation did 3.5. Our shuttle business did 2.1 gross sales. ACE did 265,000, and therapy and rec brought in, these are just private pay contracts, $9,400. So that brings our total gross revenue generated from the programs to $18 million. But as you know, there's program expenses with each of these programs. So if you subtract out the direct program expenses, this is not all of the admin expenses or fundraising expenses for UCP. These are all the expenses directly attributable to our programs themselves. We can come up with the revenue from those operations. And so you can see day programs, while they brought in a significant amount of money, 4.3, we were in the red, 295. You can see class was in the red, but by a small amount. You can see respite brought in our most net revenue at 1.6 million. And as you can see how each of the divisions contribute both to the gross and then the net for UCP. At the end of the year, we brought in $18 million of program income from our contracts and services. Of that, once you subtracted out direct expenses from the programs, they contributed $1.8 million back to UCP. To be clear, that's not our net revenue for the end of the year. You'd have to subtract out our admin expenses. You'd also have to add back in use fund development revenue. I believe the bottom line for UCP actually came out at $813,000 for 18-19. So this would be revenue generated in the programs. So that wraps up our discussion, our presentation today. I'll stay on the line for some questions. When we upload the document, the PowerPoint, we're going to include these documents as well. The first two are included in your binders, but we update them every year. So a program at a glance, if you just wanted to learn a little bit about each of the programs, acronyms and terms, which we love here at UCP, you'll get that as well. And then finally, a lot of the statistics we just shared will be in a handout format with those graphs and tables. So you'll be able to see those as well without having to go through the whole PowerPoint. So that wraps up my presentation. I want to thank everybody for taking the time today to look back at 2018-19 and the services we provided to our clients. It certainly means a lot.